Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Rock and Roll Spot coming at you with the weekly TV roundup for this past week. We're going to start off with this past Friday's episode of Constantine. Opens with a group of 20-something college students, presumably 20-somethings, reading from a book of ancient books of Egyptian symbology in a mausoleum. Each seems to end up in their own dream world of sorts, until pulled back to reality by one screaming. At the cabin, John is wallowing in self-pity, and Manny tells him to check the scrying map, and that a friend is in trouble. John realizes that said friend is his professor friend, Richie, from the local university, who has been doing data mining for John, but for whatever reason, stopped. Shortly after speaking to Richie, one of the four students from the intro seems to suffocate in the open courtyard at the university. John visits the mausoleum after talking to one of the other students, and in fact, John and Manny briefly talk about Richie before John does a small invitation to get an idea of just what happened at the mausoleum. Richie and John discuss what it is that John saw at the mausoleum and learn that Richie's TA, who was one of the four students, took a journal from Richie. Meanwhile, said TA goes into the dream world. It turns out it is all one dream world, basically entering. The four students each enter different parts of the house. And he does so to find one of the others who is potentially also trapped there. But however, both are killed. John and Richie take the last of the students to the cabin, and she inadvertently gets pulled into the dream world as well by her reflection on her phone. John and Richie go after her while, and this was to be implied. It's never actually said, but it seems that Manny actually seems to look over their bodies while they're going after the girl. In the dream world, Richie manages to override the control of its creator, the writer of the journal, Shaw, whom they soon meet. Shaw then attacks John and Richie, and then Richie completely wrests control of the world from Shaw and stops him completely. John sends back to the real world, and soon returns himself. But beforehand, he also entertains the idea of staying in the dream world. But as I said, he does decide to eventually return. Also, it's earlier mentioned the data mining. The reason given is that it's not because Richie wanted to stop; it's because he kept crashing hard drives, mining all the data for John. Anywho, moving on to Arrow from last week. Opens with Ollie having a nightmare about the last time he saw Felicity, waking up in the cabin with Tatsuo Maseo, his handler from Hong Kong, or his former handler from Hong Kong, I should say. After he wakes, Tatsuo gives him some penicillin for the infection, while Maseo tells him that he should worry more about what's become of his city in his absence. Back in Starling, Laurel takes on one of Brick's thugs and is saved by Roy, who, along with Diggle, berates her for putting on her sister's mask. At City Hall, a meeting of city leaders, which I might add includes Ray Palmer was Ghostbusters, not city leader, is interrupted by Brick and his men, who kidnap the city alderman, though they fail to get the mayor, who was also one of their targets. Later, Laurel manages to get one of Brick's men to give up Brick's current location, and reveals her full name to be Dinah Laurel Lance, which puts a smile on my face for reasons. Roy, who saw Merlin talking to Thea about leaving earlier, talks to Merlin and tells him to leave Thea alone. Merlin pretty much just blasts it off. Roy and Laurel go after the kidnapped alderman. Laurel ends up taking on Brick, but it is saved at the last minute by Roy. Brick, however, during the escape, kills one of the three aldermen in retaliation. Merlin tells Thea a little bit about his past with the League. And namely that Ra's has a death order placed on him because of the undertaking, and he joined the League while grieving for his murdered wife, so on and so forth. And Thea actually manages to convince him to stay. Kind of a, if they're going to be looking to kill us here, won't they be looking to kill us everywhere else too? Which, Anyways, Felicity talks to Laurel, convinced her not to fight for the pain of losing Sarah, but rather fight for those she cares about. Which also convinces Felicity to help Ray with his suit. Not more to help him rather than to focus on the pain of having lost Ollie. Brick gives the mayor Captain Lance terms for releasing the alderman, abandon the Glades to him. Mayor is pretty much willing to give into it at this point. Anyways, Maseo, Tatsu, and Ollie are found by members of the League of Assassins, whom Maseo and Tatsu swiftly dispatch. Felicity rejoins Team Arrow, bringing Laurel in along with her. Using Ray's helicopter, which Felicity borrows, Roy, Diggle, and Laurel go to save the remaining aldermen, successfully this time, leading to another fight between Laurel and Brick, which goes much better for Laurel than the last one. Maseo leaves the cabin, but not before injuring himself slightly, which to blame on Ollie to Ra's. Basically to say he wasn't dead after all, he got better, attacked me, and he did this. And before getting away. Felicity gets the nanite chip working for Ray's Atom suit. At the club, Thea tells her DJ that she isn't leaving Starling, prompting him to call Maseo and tell him that Merlin isn't leaving, revealing, of course, obviously, that the DJ is a plant of the League. The episode's flashback. Ollie and Maseo go to trade the bioweapon they stole in the last episode for Tatsu, only to discover that Waller switched it for a fake, knowing full well that Maseo would have given the Triad the actual bioweapon. However, Tatsu is rescued. Everyone's happy. Yay! And now, on to the Flash. Opens with Barry saving a couple in an overturned car. To get into the car, however, Barry vibrates the locking mechanism from locked to unlocked. Afterwards at Star Labs, Barry is told that it was the fastest he's run yet. A young woman breaks her boyfriend out of jail out of Iron Heights via teleportation. The next day, Barry finds a trail of organic material at the scene. Cisco lets Hartley out to find out what he knows about Ronnie. Barry's dad gathers some info on the escapee from Iron Heights. Later, the escapee and his girlfriend, Shauna, go after an armored car to cover a debt to a local crime boss. And first off, leading Barry to respond as the Flash, and something of a chase between Shauna and Barry. This, however, ends after Barry is shot, a flesh wound at best, from behind. He hears the gunshot and is able to reach back, catch the bullet as it is hitting him, and yeah. Hartley and Cisco realize that Ronnie merged with a Professor Martin Stein during the explosion. Shortly after this, Hartley double-crosses Cisco and makes good his escape. Caitlin and Barry decide to go to a bar, partially to gather intel on Shauna and her boyfriend, and partially just to, go to a bar and be 20-year-olds and have a good time. They end up singing "Summer Lovin'" from Grease during karaoke. While there, Barry meets a young woman named Linda Park, who gives him her number. The next day, Barry finds out that his dad has been stabbed at Iron Heights for getting the information for Barry and Joe. Barry finds actually goes after the inmate who stabbed his dad and questions him a bit, and then makes it appear as though he was escaping, tacking on a few more years to his sentence. Barry manages to catch up with the couple, and they realize, after realizing that Shauna can't teleport if she can't see where she's going. So, while in a tunnel, Barry knocks out all the lights, including the car's headlights. Shauna's boyfriend manages to escape, and leaving Shauna at the scene. Barry, again as the Flash, gives Iris info on Shauna's boyfriend, and while leaving, Iris snaps a picture of him. Later on, Barry goes on a lunch date with Linda, who turns out also works for the Central City Picture News, and knows full well who Iris is. Later, Barry talks to his dad, who pretty much has figured out now that Barry is the Flash. They talk, and he said, and Barry's dad told him there are three things if his son was a Flash, he would love to say to him. The last one being he's proud of him. Now for the little teaser at the end scene. Two workmen in sewers are attacked by a gorilla. Carved into the walls is one word, constantly. Grodd. And that was where the episode ends. Moving on to this most recent episode of Gotham. Opens with a man tied to a chair being suspended off the ledge of a building and then, well, cut free over the edge. Penguin and Maroni toast Fish's downfall, and during which Fish calls Maroni to tell him that Penguin is still working for Falcone. Maroni then insists that Penguin accompany him upstate to meet a guy. Bullock and Enigma investigate the murder scene from earlier, and the captain tells Bullock to be careful, and also informs Enigma that he's not the medical examiner and to not dig around in bodies. Gordon catches Selena in his apartment, and she tells Gordon, and before she leaves, she tells Gordon exactly what she told Bruce. She lied. She didn't see the killer. Gordon calls upon Bruce, and the two of them have a chat, in which Bruce says he will look into the murder of his parents on his own. Moving back to Maroni and Penguin, they get to their destination upstate, and Maroni tells Penguin about some of his suspicions about Penguin. Back in Gotham, Bullock discovers the victim from earlier was part of a support group for people suffering from phobias. The victim's phobia being heights. Later, the killer kidnaps another victim, utilizing a baby pig. While following up on a lead, Gordon and Bullock find and save the recently kidnapped man and they shoot who potentially is the perp. Maroni and Penguin have a chat about secrets, and Maroni tells Penguin about the call from Penguin. And Penguin tries to shoot Maroni with a gun loaded with blanks. Obviously, it does not go well. Gordon meets with Dr. Tompkins, but their lunch is cut short by a call about the second victim, who says he was kidnapped by two men, not one. Bullock goes to the support group meeting while Gordon tries to tell him about the other assailant. Tries calling him, but the phone's turned off. Maroni makes an attempt to kill Penguin, and by crushing him in a car, I might add, and Penguin manages to escape. Gordon and Bullock go to save the third victim, who turns out was the sponsor of the first victim, and had also somewhat become the object of Bullock's attraction after the two managed to meet back up to get with each other. Bullock saves the girl. Yay, Bullock. Though the perp escapes, Dr. Tompkins informs Gordon that the first victim had his adrenal gland removed. Penguin, once again, makes his way back to Gotham. And finally, the boat on which Fish is hiding is attacked. And that was where the episode ended. Moving on to Agent Carter. Opens with a girl going through various bits of training in 1937 Russia. Sleeping while handcuffed to a bed. learning English through cartoons, Disney movies, hand-to-hand combat, including the more lethal aspects of hand-to-hand combat. Transitions to Peggy's neighbor Dottie doing some morning training in her room at the house. That morning at breakfast, Dottie has breakfast with Peggy and accidentally knocks over Peggy's purse and palms her key while picking everything up. The Leviathan typewriter communication device starts back up, and Peggy manages to translate the message. She also managed to get herself on the SSR team, being sent to break up a weapons buy, which Howard Stark is implicated in being present at, by recruiting the Howling Commandos as the team's as a attack team for the mission. Agent Souza of the SSR realizes that after briefly seeing the two gunshot scars that Peggy has on her shoulder, realizes that Peggy hasn't been entirely honest with the SSR. Namely, after having seen the pictures of her as in a blonde wig from the first episode. The director continues to look into the Battle of Fennel, the Russian massacre disguise that was said to be a battle, and learns that Howard Stark was involved in the battle's cleanup. In Russia, the SSR team and the Howling Commandos find a training facility for Russian infiltrators, which looks just like the one that Dottie was seemingly trained in the intro. The director tells Jarvis that he just wants to know what happened. That's all. Doesn't want to know. He's not interested in a witch hunt or anything. He just wants to know what happened at Fennel. Dottie searches Peggy's room and finds, first off, the pictures of Stark's, the crates with Stark's items in it, as well as her picture of Steve and some other, including one of her more interesting lipsticks. The team in Russia discovers that Leviathan has actually stolen Stark's schematics, but does not actually have Stark present. The SSR team manages to escape, however, not without casualties. And Dum Dum Dugan tries to come up with a nickname for Carter. Moving on to Sleepy Hollow. Opens with the theft of an Elizabethan-era journal from an auction house. The next day, Ichabod learns the crime through Abby while he is house hunting. Henry is revealed to be alive and staying in a hotel, having paid in advance, staying long term. The thief of the journal is found to be using steroids, enhanced blood magic. Katrina identifies him as a warlock named Solomon Kent of the Massachusetts colony, who was instrumental in the Salem witch trials. Katrina attempts to track the book and learns that it isn't complete and therefore currently unusable. Ichabod figured out that Kent means to resurrect a woman he loved in Salem. Ichabod presumes that after learning Kent's history that he means to resurrect a woman that he loved while in Salem. After learning when the remnant of the book will be delivered, Ichabod, Katrina, and Abby go after Kent. However, Kent manages to get a hold of the remaining portion of the book, and then he also tries to convince Katrina to give into darkness to realize her full potential. He also summons two, I'm not really sure what to call them, but creatures to attack Ichabod and Abby, and Ichabod noticed that he understood part of the incantation, which actually seems to point towards Kent going for what's known as a traveler spell, basically time travel. He means to go back in time, save the woman, which would basically completely and utterly change history. Ichabod, Abby, and Frank Washington take down Kent, Washington kills Kent himself while Ichabod and Abby are looking for him. He kills Kent by snapping his neck and then pockets the spell book as the body disintegrates. The next day, after Washington brings the spell book to Henry, it turns out has his own plans for it. It's also earlier seen that Henry killed a few local lowlifes at the hotel he is staying at. Anywho, that's all I got for now. For those who are interested in Twitch TV posts, a friend of mine, Ashlyn Rainey, has started up one of her own. There will be a link to the channel in the description below, along with my social media information. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on social media. Check out Ashlyn Rainey's Twitch channel. That's all I got for now. As always, live long, rock hard.